Marvel, Hela's husband breaks the universe. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 41, Rescue the Planet. In the eyes of the Celestial Group, even if an ordinary planet Earth was destroyed, who cared? The Earth would have been destroyed long ago. If it weren't for Odin's protection, the Earth would have been gone. Just when Odin was still wondering whether to take the risk to stop Galactus, there were also people on Earth looking out of the sky. Himalaya, Taj. Supreme Master Gu-Yi stood on the top of the mountain, looking at the sky above her head, her eyes solemn. As the guardian of the Earth, Gu-Yi had repelled countless enemies in the long years. Countless times in the dark, she protected the safety of the Earth. But this time it was different. Gu-Yi lost confidence for the first time. Even when facing Dormammu, Lord of the Dark Dimension, Gu-Yi was absolutely sure that she could win. But the danger this time was far more terrifying than Dormammu. One of the 5 gods, the planet devourer. This was the existence that made many cosmic civilizations frightened. Galactus was staring at the Earth, which was tantamount to a death sentence for all life on the Earth. Thinking of this, Gu-Yi sighed again. The only way now was to expect Galactus to be in its weakest state. This way, there was still a chance to fight. Otherwise, everyone could only wait for death. Inexplicably, Gu-Yi thought of Yi-Bai. In the mirror space before, Gu-Yi had seen Yi-Bai's power. Maybe Yi-Bai had a chance to contend with Galactus and become a key role in saving them from this disaster. But Gu-Yi didn't go to Yi-Bai directly. She didn't like to use righteousness to suppress others. If she asked Yi-Bai to take action to save the Earth from this crisis, it was inevitable that she would be suspected of moral kidnapping. So she was waiting for Yi-Bai to make a choice. Yi-Bai was also paying attention to this disaster. In fact, he knew of Galactus's arrival earlier than NASA. Now Yi-Bai himself didn't know how strong he was. He only knew that he was particularly strong. As early as when Galactus was still far away from Earth, Yi-Bai had felt his presence. This kind of terrifying perception was not available before. And it was not until Yi-Bai obtained the body template of Ancient Doomsday before he obtained this ability. Do you want to make a move? Yi-Bai was thinking. Galactus was coming soon and time was running out. If he didn't make a move, the Earth would be eaten by Galactus, and there was no other ending. Because as far as these superheroes on Earth were concerned, there was obviously no possibility of confronting the planet devourer. Iron Man had just grown up, and had not yet reached the point where he had developed countless anti-XX armors. Hulk had only now begun to adapt to his own strength, and nobody knew how far he was from his cosmic form. Thor, the god of thunder, was still a hammer god. He hadn't even discovered his own potential, let alone the power of Odin. Black Phoenix had not yet awakened, and was still at the stage of being imprisoned by Professor X. As for the Scarlet Witch, who knew where she was now? The chaotic magic that could restart the universe. It was obviously far away in the foreseeable future. As for Gu-Yi, Hela and Captain Marvel, although the 3 of them were very strong, they had the level of Heavenly Father. They were by no means an opponent of Galactus. Because the Galactus at this moment was not in an extremely weak state. After thinking about it, Yi-Bai found that he was the only one who could prevent Galactus from devouring the Earth. Yi-Bai actually didn't want to be a hero, because being a hero was too troublesome. But the current situation was that Yi-Bai could only be a hero. Otherwise, the Earth would be GG. This made Yi-Bai feel a little helpless. After all, most of the heroes were all forced out. Yes, Yi-Bai had already decided to make a move. Otherwise, what else? The Earth would just get cold without getting rid of him. Yi-Bai still had so many industries on the Earth. How could he be willing for them to be destroyed? In addition, Yi-Bai also admitted that he had feelings for the Earth. Although it was not the same world, it was the same planet. Before going to stop Galactus, Yi-Bai returned to the manor first. Since he decided to stop Galactus, Yi-Bai naturally wanted to say hello to Hela. Of course, Yi-Bai would not foolishly say what he was going to do. He just had to find an excuse to go out. As for Hela's identity, Yi-Bai didn't intend to ask. Yi-Bai believed that if he asked, Hela would definitely say, but so what? Hela wanted to tell herself. So she would naturally confess. There was no need to be too anxious. Anyway, he had already eaten it and wiped it out. Was he still afraid that Hela would be able to run away? As always, Yi-Bai made a big meal first. Then at the dinner table, Yi-Bai and Hela talked about his plan to go out. Hela, who had no doubt, nodded to indicate that she knew. Apart from telling Yi-Bai to pay attention to safety and come back early, there was nothing else. Hela really didn't know Yibai's purpose, nor did she know about the matter of Galactus. She was not like Gu-E, who had the blessing of Time Gem. Nor was she an Asgardian, with Heimdall's eyes. It would be strange if Hela knew about Galactus without sufficient sources of intelligence. At most, through the Hydra organization, she learned that a black hole was approaching the Earth. This was a trivial matter in Hela's eyes. Maybe ordinary mortals were so panicked that they thought black holes were unsolvable natural disasters. But Hela knew that the Earth's water was deep. Not to mention anything else, just Odin and Supreme Master Gu-E were two big brothers. If it's just an ordinary black hole, these two big brothers could really solve it easily. Hence, she didn't care too much about the black hole. Instead, Hela was more concerned about another thing. That was Asgard. Through Frigga, Hela already knew that Asgard had found herself. This was actually nothing. Hela had no intention of hiding from Asgard. But the key was Odin's attitude towards Yibai. Frigga's warning was still vivid, and Odin was more likely to act on Yibai. You didn't have to guess, Hela. That old bastard Odin was definitely not satisfied that she had found a mortal to be her husband. Perhaps in Odin's opinion, doing so by itself was tarnishing the blood of the Odin's family. But so what? Hela liked him herself, that's enough. And thinking of Odin's angry look, Hela felt a kind of revenge-like pleasure in her heart. Old bastard, I just want to piss you off before you make up for your mistakes. Hela was still very dignified inside. Odin's strength was definitely a huge threat to Yibai. If Odin accidentally killed Yibai, Hela vowed that she would definitely go crazy. Therefore, Hela was thinking about how to ensure the safety of Yibai's life as much as possible. She didn't have to worry about herself. Odin couldn't kill her unless Odin was willing to destroy Asgard. Of course, Hela would have this worry, mainly because she didn't understand Yibai's strength. If Hela knew Yibai's current strength, there would definitely be no confusion now. It was estimated that at that time, she would be happy for Odin to come to find trouble with Yibai. Episode 42, Attacking, Galactus and the Silver Surfer. At this time, there were still 2 days before the Galactus reached the Earth. Today's Yibai was as usual, awake early to make breakfast for Hela. But he didn't know that today, the people on the planet were going crazy. The high-level human beings who knew the truth waited desperately for the end to come, and their hearts were ashamed. As for those who were not qualified to know the truth until they died, they were still wondering why the world was so quiet today. The militaries of all countries on the Earth had taken out all of their strength, planning to struggle desperately. If they didn't work hard to not die, human beings would have no choice at all. Although it was outrageous to attack black holes with technological weapons, what else could they do? Just before the extinction, watch the last firework. The grandest fireworks, dedicated to human civilization, that was about to end. Besides, at S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury was also about to become crazy. His phone calls kept calling all the superheroes he knew. After Tony Stark got the news, he stopped his research on new Mark series armor and hurried to the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. The Fantastic Four also ended their travels and came to New York City together. Dr. Banner finished his long escape and rushed towards New York City under the escort of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Even the mutants had received an invitation from S.H.I.E.L.D., planning to participate in this last carnival. Because everyone felt that humans were about to die this time. In front of the black hole, the superheroes who were still immature today had no resistance at all. Yibai naturally didn't know these things, and he didn't know that some people on the Earth were desperate because of the arrival of Galactus. At this time, after breakfast, Yibai said goodbye to Hela. Then he drove to a suburb of New York City. After confirming that no one would notice him, Yibai got out of the car. Then, he squatted slightly, and in the next second he flew into the sky. As Yibai had obtained General Zod's body template and the ancient Doomsday body template, he was naturally able to fly, and his flying speed itself was fast, breaking through the supersonic speed at the moment of takeoff. And behind Yibai, a large cone-shaped sonic burst cloud formed. This was still the result of Yibai deliberately controlling his speed. Otherwise, too fast speed might affect the Earth's atmosphere. Even so, Yibai still got out of the Earth's orbit in a very short time, and formally entered the outer space. After identifying a direction, Yibai disappeared into the Earth's outer space orbit at an incredible speed. In outer space not far from the solar system, a group of pure black domains was moving fast. If someone on Earth saw this scene, they would understand that this black area was the biggest threat the Earth was facing today, the black hole. To be precise, it was one of the 5 gods, the planet devourer. At the periphery of the black hole, a silver figure was constantly flying. This was Silver Surfer, a superhero from outer space. It's just that Silver Surfer was still an envoy under Galactus at this time. He was responsible for helping Galactus to find a planet that could be swallowed. At this moment, the Silver Surfer stopped his movements and focused on the front. In his line of sight, an unknown object was approaching quickly. In a very short period of time, the unknown object appeared in front of the Silver Surfer. A human being who was naturally Yi Bai. Looking at the Silver Surfer, who was stepping on a silver board in front of him, and the huge black hole, Yi Bai knew that this was Galactus and his envoy. The two parties didn't mean to talk, and they couldn't talk at all in outer space. The sound couldn't even spread, talk with a hammer. And Yi Bai came this time. His purpose was to make trouble, to repel Galactus. So there was no need to talk. So the time was to start the fight directly, which was what should be done. Yi Bai rushed towards the Silver Surfer first, planning to kill the envoy of Galactus before facing Galactus. The Silver Surfer was taken aback, but he also quickly reacted, raising his hand to fire a cosmic ray. Silver Surfer was very strong, completely at the level of Heavenly Father or even higher. Because his master, Galactus, gave him a powerful cosmic power, with exaggerated high combat power. In the movie, there was even a performance that ended up Galactus. Of course, that was the extremely weak version of Galactus. But it could also be seen from this that the Silver Surfer's strength was not low. After all, even for Galactus in an extremely weak state, at least the strength of the Heavenly Father level was required to fight it. It's just that the Silver Surfer's strength was very strong, and Yi Bai's strength was even stronger. Just a body template of General Zod was enough to make Yi Bai's strength reach an exaggerated level. Every Kryptonian was a comparison. In addition, there was an ancient Doomsday body template. This was an existence that in its peak period was able to fight against the existence of the strongest DC villain Darkseid violently. Facing the cosmic ray shot by the Silver Surfer, Yi Bai didn't even bother to dodge, and directly faced it. After the physical body blocked the cosmic ray, not only was Yi Bai not harmed. Instead, he became stronger. Then under the surprised eyes of the Silver Surfer, Yi Bai punched him. This punch was so powerful that it could smash an Earth-like planet. But with this punch, the Silver Surfer did not die. He just flew for countless distances and fell into a severely injured coma. He didn't know how long he would float in space. Perhaps the Silver Surfer wouldn't stop drifting in space until he was captured by the gravity of a certain planet. 1 punch, 1 second kill. The opponent was still a strong player at the level of Silver Surfer. Yi Bai's strength could be imagined as terrifying. This was still the case when Yi Bai failed to realize his full potential. Theoretically, Doomsday could continue to evolve independently and become stronger and stronger. But in fact, the best way to grow quickly with the Doomsday body template was actually to keep fighting. Only with constant injuries and deaths, Doomsday would become stronger and stronger. Yi Bai was obviously not qualified in this regard. Because after he obtained the Doomsday body template, he had not died once so far. This also caused Yi Bai to be far from being able to tap the potential of ancient Doomsday. The Doomsday body template was not like General Zod's Kryptonian God of War body template, which became stronger when exposed to the sun. Even so, Yi Bai's current combat effectiveness was also exaggerated. But Yi Bai was not too complacent. The real enemy was not Silver Surfer, but Galactus. After all, the Silver Surfer's power was bestowed by Galactus. Silver Surfer had such strength. How could Galactus be weak? And in Yi Bai's perception, Galactus, one of the 5 gods, was in the depths of this black hole. Yi Bai didn't hesitate and plunged straight into the black hole. Black hole was the most terrifying celestial body in the universe, the intersection of all physics, the ultimate existence. But obviously, the black hole could not kill the current Yi Bai. After all, he was a man with a Doomsday body template. Episode 43, Face Galactus, Go to War. As soon as he entered the border of the black hole, Yi Bai felt an almost infinite gravity pressing on him. These gravitational forces were hindering Yi Bai's constant approach to the depths of the black hole. At the same time, this force of gravity was trying hard to tear Yi Bai's body into pieces. Before crossing, Yi Bai had once watched a popular science program. It was said that if a person was swallowed by a black hole, they would be drawn into an infinitely long thin thread. And this thin line could never touch the center of the black hole, because the time flow inside the black hole was almost eternal. Yi Bai was non-committal about this. Because he did not feel that time was frozen, he could still move inside the black hole. As for the gravity that put pressure on him, it really caused some trouble for Yi Bai at the beginning, but Yi Bai soon got used to it. The Doomsday body template was so perverted. What Yi Bai didn't know was that the reason why he didn't feel that time was frozen was because he had completely detached himself from time. Time couldn't hold him back, so naturally he could wander freely inside the black hole. In the Marvel Universe, detachment of time was almost the standard for the strong. If you couldn't get away from it, you won't even deserve the title of strong. The ability of the Time Stone was very powerful, but it was ineffective in front of the real strong. For example, Dormammu, the monarch of the Dark Dimension, was not restricted by the law of time. Doctor Strange could only use the ability of Time Stone to annoy Dormammu by endlessly looping his own death. It was impossible to cross the timeline and directly behead the young Dormammu. Because Dormammu had detached himself from time. His past couldn't be traced at all in the long river of time. Moreover, if the law of time was useful against Dormammu, he would not be annoyed by the infinite loop of time. Because even if time keeps repeating, Dormammu should kill Doctor Strange for the first time every time, and he won't be bored at all. Even Dormammu could surpass time, and naturally Yi Bai could do it as well. So Yi Bai traversed the long gravitational belt of the black hole. He went directly to the center of the black hole and touched the singularity. The next moment, Yi Bai's figure disappeared, and he arrived at a mysterious space. This was the inside of the real black hole, another universe. The singularity was just a portal into this universe. And in this universe, Yi Bai saw countless floating planets. At the same time, Yi Bai also saw Galactus, a god with a body larger than hundreds of millions of planets. If Yi Bai was right, these planets should have been swallowed up by Galactus over countless years. The black hole was just a tool for Galactus, and this universe was the stomach of Galactus. All the planets eaten by Galactus would eventually be digested by him here. While Yi Bai was looking at Galactus, Galactus was also looking at Yi Bai. However, Galactus really did not take Yi Bai seriously. Even if Yi Bai could pass through the black hole. Even if he is beyond the long river of time. But in the Marvel world, how many strong people had surpassed time? There were simply too many to count. But the 5 great gods were always 5. It was not that there were no challengers. On the contrary, there were countless challengers who wanted to replace the 5 gods. What about the final result? Those challengers were dead. So Galactus had the confidence to overlook all life. Interesting little thing. Explain your intentions. If there is no reasonable explanation, maybe you will be my next envoy. The sound of Galactus rang from this universe, but Yi Bai was not surprised. To put it plainly, this universe was created by Galactus, and Galactus could control all the rules of this universe. Even in the case of space, the sound could still spread, because Galactus was the creator of this universe. It's very simple, this planet that you fancy can't be eaten by you. You should change your eating goal. Yi Bai didn't immediately go to war when facing Galactus. There were still some worries in his heart. After all, what was Galactus's body size? Yes, but you have to pay the price. Do you know that a long time ago, someone also begged me to let go of his home star? Do you know the final outcome? Galactus said indifferently. His voice was like a cold machine without the slightest emotion, but also like an omnipotent god overlooking the muddy world. You mean the Silver Surfer, the one who rode on the silver board? Yi Bai told his guess. After all, he didn't know the backstory of the Silver Surfer very well. Yes, that is the one. He became my envoy, and I fulfilled my promise and let go of his home star. If you want to save your home planet, you must also become my messenger and find a new planet for me to devour in the universe. Galactus stated his own conditions. He took a fancy to Yi Bai's strength and wanted to accept him as a younger brother. Yi Bai couldn't agree to this condition. He had a wife. Hela was still waiting for him. And with Yi Bai's character, he had no interest in being someone else's younger brother. Even if the opponent was one of the 5 gods, Galactus. If this is the case, then maybe we have to have one fight. Yi Bai was indifferent and adjusted the state of his whole body to the peak. A battle was inevitable. The strength of Galactus was beyond doubt, not to mention that the current Galactus was not weak. Yi Bai's doomsday body template was powerful, but Yi Bai didn't develop it too deeply. When they really started fighting, Yi Bai and Galactus said they didn't know who would win. But Yi Bai firmly believed that he would not lose. It's a big deal to die several times, and resurrect and evolve several times. Galactus didn't expect Yi Bai to be so strong. But soon, Galactus decided to let Yi-Bai know that the majesty of the five gods could not be provoked. In the long years, he had seen many arrogant and powerful men. It's just that those strong people basically became honest after being beaten by the Galactus. From his point of view, Yi-Bai was no exception. For a moment, Galactus raised his right hand, flattened the palm of his hand, turned it into a huge palm comparable to a galaxy, and patted Yi-Bai. Under this huge palm, countless planets were affected and turned into powder. The power of the five gods could be imagined. In fact, the so-called universe was too fragile for the existence of this level. Almost every one of the five gods had the power to easily destroy the universe. Facing the huge palm strike by Galactus, Yi-Bai directly resisted. With a punch to open the sky, he slammed it towards the palm that was constantly pressing down. With this blow, Yi-Bai had used all of his strength. But the ending was cruel. The strength gap between Yi-Bai and Galactus was quite large. Under the palm of Galactus, he suffered a big loss, and it was somewhat difficult for him to contend. But Yi-Bai was not depressed, but was agitated in his heart. He could clearly feel that his evolutionary speed was greatly increasing, and his strength was rapidly becoming stronger. The ancient Doomsday was a bug. The more it fought, the stronger it became. The key skill was not to die, and it could continue to evolve. In the DC universe, even Superman with the Code of Life regarded Doomsday as his lives enemy. And in the world of Marvel, Galactus would also be fortunate to experience the horror of the Doomsday. Episode 44, Combat, Evolution Under High Pressure. On Earth, superheroes gathered together, planning to make the last stand for mankind. The military of various countries was also ready, and the weapons accumulated over the years were all going to show up. It was to present the most magnificent fireworks for the destruction of human civilization. At this time, even a group of assholes who knew nothing had realized that something was wrong. Today's world was too quiet. However, just when everyone was ready to fight hard, suddenly, news came from NASA, shocking everyone. The black hole, it won't move anymore. When they received this news, not only the scientists from all over the world were at a loss. Even the scumbag Nick Fury was also a little confused. So, black holes could still break like cars? Don't ask, they hadn't seen this scene. Or, shall we wait? Looking at a group of superheroes that were gearing up in front of him, Nick Fury said strangely. There was a glimmer of hope in his heart. Maybe there will be a turnaround. The other superheroes also looked at each other and finally nodded silently. Otherwise, what else? Could you really count on them to deal with this black hole? They didn't want to die. Wasn't it good to be alive? In the universe of Galactus, the battle between Yi-Bai and Galactus was still going on. To be precise, it was not a fight. Yi-Bai was unilaterally being beaten. Galactus could only become the shame of the five gods when he was extremely weak. But the Galactus that Yi-Bai was facing now was not weak at all. And his combat effectiveness was terrifying. He smashed a galaxy at will. Opening his mouth was a magnificent cosmic ray. This combat power was really outrageous. However, Yi-Bai's performance was even more outrageous. Facing the attack of Galactus, Yi-Bai couldn't resist at first. But as Yi-Bai died more and more times, his evolution speed became faster and faster. Now he could barely break his wrist with Galactus. With a boom, Yi-Bai once again attacked Galactus. This time Yi-Bai smashed the big hand that Galactus had photographed. Galactus's expressionless and indifferent face showed an expression of pain for the first time. Although this painful expression faded in a flash, it was still caught by Yi-Bai. You are special. No wonder you dare to challenge me. After eating a small loss, Galactus did not continue to attack. He watched Yi-Bai and spoke slowly. Galactus was really interested in Yi-Bai now. After all, such interesting mortals were rare. Couldn't be beaten to death. Couldn't be smashed, and the vitality was outrageous. What was even more exaggerated was the speed of becoming stronger. As if every time Yi-Bai was hit, he would be several times stronger than before. This was the first time Galactus had seen this kind of being, and it was inevitable that there would be some curiosity. You are also very strong. You deserve to be one of the five gods. Yi-Bai also said sincerely, a little amazed at the strength of Galactus. Only today, after fighting Galactus, Yi-Bai realized that he was a bit arrogant before. He thought he could walk sideways in the Marvel world by getting the Doomsday body template. Who knew, the water in the Marvel world was so deep. Doomsday was indeed abnormal, but it also needed to be developed. As far as Yi-Bai's attitude of fishing every day, he hadn't developed much at all. This was also the fundamental reason why Yi-Bai had difficulty contending with Galactus in the first place. It's not that the body template of Doomsday was not strong, but that Yi-Bai was too salty. But even so, Yi-Bai still relied on the Doomsday body template. He not only survived the battle with Galactus, but also completed many evolutions at high speed. Now, he could barely tie with the current Galactus. Many people felt that Galactus was nothing more than that because of the embarrassing achievements of Galactus. But in fact, the strength of Galactus was particularly strong. A kind of exaggerated strength. Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet was hammered with a single blow by Galactus in its heyday, which showed the strength of the Galactus. The Infinity Gauntlet could erase half of the universe with a snap of its fingers, and this was still not an opponent of Galactus. To be precise, it was not an opponent of the five gods. Yi-Bai could rely on his own strength to beat Galactus to this point, which was already quite remarkable. So, how about we make an agreement? As long as you can withstand my last blow, I will let go of your home planet and will never use your home planet as food. Finally, Galactus made a compromise, and Yi-Bai nodded after thinking about it. Galactus put forward this condition, which had essentially let the Earth go by default. After all, Galactus had seen Yi-Bai's ability, and he didn't think he could kill Yi-Bai with a single blow. In fact, the best way to deal with Doomsday was to banish it. The same was true for Yi-Bai. Fighting with him was something that a fool would do because Yi-Bai would not die. Exiling Yi-Bai to the unknown world was the most appropriate way to deal with him. Yi-Bai also understood this weakness of his, and had already figured out the countermeasures in his heart. After finishing this encounter with Galactus, Yi-Bai would go back and learn the teleportation spell of the Supreme Mage. Even if he was banished to an unknown space, Yi-Bai could come back easily. This was a kind of precautionary measure to eliminate his weaknesses in advance. Seeing that Yi-Bai had agreed to his condition, Galactus stopped hesitating, and his two huge pupils bloomed with endless brilliance. Then, a cosmic energy comparable to a gamma-ray burst spurted out of Galactus' mouth, directly towards Yi-Bai. Yi-Bai did not sit down and wait for death. His pupils also bloomed with terrible light. The next moment, an equally terrifying cosmic energy ray was released from Yi-Bai's mouth. This move was automatically copied by Yi-Bai due to the Doomsday body template after suffering Galactus' attack. It was powerful enough to easily penetrate an entire galaxy. The cosmic rays emitted by Yi-Bai and Galactus smashed together after destroying many planets, respectively. Then, a terrifying roar sounded like the Big Bang. Before the aftermath of the terrible explosion destroyed nearby planets, Galactus took the lead in suppressing everything that might happen. Soon, the world became cold and dead again. At this time, Galactus looked at Yi-Bai with a little more approval in his eyes. Only the strong were worthy of the respect of the strong. Yi-Bai was like this, forcibly using his own strength to subdue one of the five gods. As you wish, I will let go of your home planet. Galactus didn't intend to go back on his agreement, and he simply recognized what he had said before. This was also one of the advantages of Galactus. This god was also good and evil. He had fought side by side with superheroes, and he had also fought against superheroes. But the promises he made, he never went back on them. Episode 45, Cheers, the Earth is saved, although the process was a bit difficult. Fortunately, Yi-Bai was still successful in the end. He not only survived under the high pressure of Galactus, but also quickly improved his strength. At the same time, he successfully let Galactus dismiss the idea of swallowing the Earth. Yi-Bai's goal was completely achieved. In fact, what Yi-Bai didn't know was that the reason why Galactus had let go of the Earth was just not wanting to waste his own energy. As the planet devourer all year round, Galactus was never full. His energy was precious, and the only way to replenish it was to eat a planet. It was also because of this, when the gain was not proportional to the effort. The fact that Galactus gave up was very normal. After all, it's the same with any other planet. So why bother with the Earth? What's more, Yi-Bai's performance really surprised Galactus. Yi-Bai, who was getting stronger and stronger, had already been regarded as being at the same level as a certain monster. Galactus naturally did not want to provoke him. Otherwise, if Yi-Bai wanted revenge in the future, the days of Galactus would also be very difficult. Let's go. I won't deal with your home planet anymore. I should also go looking for new food. Galactus said to Yi-Bai with a deep voice, returning to a mechanically cold tone. Yi-Bai didn't intend to stay longer either, and he could already leave because his purpose was achieved. I don't know how much time has passed. I hope I can make dinner for Hela on time. After saying hello, Yibai returned the same way and flew out of the black hole smoothly. The capture limit of a black hole was the speed of light. As long as something had a speed that exceeded the speed of light, it could escape the range of the black hole. Now Yibai's speed, if he used his full strength in space, the speed of light would not be a problem. He got rid of the huge gravity of the black hole very easily. After spotting the azure planet, Yibai speeded up and hurried away. As for Galactus, after Yibai left, he controlled the entire black hole to turn around, leaving the solar system in a short time. A disaster that might exterminate the Earth was directly resolved without anyone knowing it. On Earth, NASA. After watching the disappearance of the black field that symbolizes the black hole on the screen, countless researchers were stunned and had not recovered even after a long time. After some time, the loud cheers almost overturned the roof. Everyone was venting the despair of the past few days. At the same time, everyone began to celebrate regardless of demeanor, celebrating that mankind and even the Earth had escaped. After venting their emotions to their heart's content, the researchers also raised a few questions one after another. How could such a big black hole disappear inexplicably? God's miracle? Or was the previous black hole just an illusion? Everyone had similar questions in their hearts, because the crisis dissipated inexplicably. But soon, the researchers pressed this question to the bottom of their hearts and began to send out various reports. They were finally safe. However, there were still many people on Earth who were still desperate and ready to die. It's also time to tell the world that God had blessed the Earth. USA, Pentagon. On the oval-shaped conference table, the president was holding his head, desperately listening to the reports of the people below. Different from the usual political talks, most of the people sitting at the oval conference table were members of the military. Mr. President, the 132 nuclear bombs at our base are ready to be launched anytime. Mr. President, the 154 nuclear bombs at our base are also ready. Give the order. Let us use the ultimate weapon of mankind to personally send the final salute to the end of human civilization. A military leader with at least the rank of Lieutenant General said to Mr. President in a generous tone of death. All their firepower had been prepared. Once the president gave orders, countless weapons would rise into space, kicking off the demise of mankind. This was not only the case with the USA, but also in other countries. When facing the black hole, the ultimate celestial body in the universe, human beings were really too small. Unless they could push the Earth to run away, it would inevitably be extinct. I know, but please wait. Mr. President knew more than people in the military. He knew that the black hole had stopped strangely. So he decided to wait. Maybe there would be a turnaround. Although he knew in his heart that this possibility was very slim. But at this moment, the door of the conference room was pushed open, and the confidant once again broke in rudely. Mr. President, NASA urgently, good news. The black hole has disappeared, and our crisis has been resolved. The confidant minister almost rushed all the way because he was too anxious, so he gasped. But everyone here listened carefully to his report and didn't want to miss a word. After hearing the news completely, a huge excitement rose in everyone's heart. This was a feeling of surviving a disaster. But soon, some people came back to their senses. Was this news true? Was he talking nonsense? Was he fooling us? It could be seen that sometimes the big ups and downs come too fast, and it was easy to change the mentality. Mr. President stood up from his seat at a speed that was completely incompatible with his 70-year-old body. He quickly came to the confidant minister to grab the NASA report. After confirming that the report was true, this 70-year-old man couldn't help but cry with joy. This was a kind of salvation from hell to heaven. After receiving the news from NASA for the first time in S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury's face, like a black pot, did not change at all. After turning around, Nick Fury realized that everyone in the room was looking at him with eager eyes. Sir, how is the situation? Someone couldn't help being impatient and asked Nick Fury on their own initiative. Even the superheroes stared at the report sheet in Nick Fury's hands. Tony Stark even had the urge to let Jarvis hack into NASA to see what the situation was like. After taking a deep breath and forcing himself to calm down and maintain his character, Nick Fury finally spoke. With a faint, pretentious tone that everything was under control, Nick Fury said slowly, according to NASA's latest report, they have detected that the black hole has disappeared. Humanity once again struggled from the deathline. Nick Fury tried very hard to maintain his high-cold character, but the corners of his mouth still betrayed him. God knew when he confirmed the good news just now. Just how much willpower he used to suppress the heart of wanting to jump and celebrate. But what made Nick Fury a little puzzled was why everyone was stunned after he had said the good news. Episode 46, Odin's Misfortune. The so-called enthusiasm was to go from the trough to the peak. The so-called redemption was to move from despair to hope. At this moment, all those who knew that the black hole disappeared and the Earth was safe could not suppress their inner excitement. And started venting their inner emotions to their heart's content. God knew how desperate and helpless they were when facing a black hole. Fortunately, all this was over, and the damn black hole had disappeared. The whole world was plunged into a sea of ecstasy. Countless people who knew the truth had announced on Twitter that God had blessed the Earth. But after the carnival, everyone had to face an embarrassing problem. That was, how did the black hole disappear? When people woke up from the carnival, they thought about this question. Some people thought that the whole thing was a big conspiracy, and it was God who made a big joke towards human beings. There was no such thing as a black hole at all, it's just that NASA made a major mistake. Otherwise, there was no way to explain the sudden appearance and disappearance of the black hole. Some people thought that there must be some superhero who had guarded the safety of the Earth in a place that humans didn't know. But this speculation was met with numerous ridicules as soon as it came out. That's a black hole. What kind of superhero could repel a black hole? Even if the legendary God himself descended, he couldn't do this. In fact, the Marvel world really had God and angels. In the very early days, God led his angels to spread his orthodoxy on the Earth. Then, God met a brutal war madman. He was directly sealed in another world, the 10th world above the 9 realms. The guy who sealed God and the angels was called Odin. Odin was still very strong, but he had shot less and less recently. By the way, when many humans were looking for the reason for the disappearance of the black hole. On the top of the Himalayas, Taj. Gui stood with her hands behind her back and looked towards the west with relief in her eyes. Unlike other human beings who didn't know anything, the Supreme Master Gui knew who forced the Galactus back. She was very satisfied. Finally, Yi-Bai had made his choice and became a hero behind the scenes. This was very similar to Gui. She herself was such a person. When other superheroes rescued the world from a disaster, they wanted people all over the world to know it. But Gui was different. She had guarded the Earth silently for thousands of years, repelling many hidden enemies. Gui's deeds were rarely known. Even in Taj, few people knew how many times Gui had repelled enemies that had invaded the Earth. Yi-Bai's approach was very similar to that of Gui. This made Gui naturally feel close to Yi-Bai. It was a pity that Yi-Bai was not destined to be her successor and could not become the second Supreme Mage. But with Yi-Bai's strength, he didn't need to be the second Supreme Mage. What Gui didn't know was that Yi-Bai chose to fight back the Galactus. Not because he was moved to be a hero, nor because of the nasty criticism on Earth. He just didn't want to live in another place. Besides, Yi-Bai still had so many industries on the Earth. So he was not willing to let the Earth be destroyed. As humans speculated on the truth behind the black hole incident. Asgard, on the throne of the King of Gods. Odin had learned the news that Galactus was repelled. Odin was not surprised by this news. The strength of Galactus fluctuated too much. It depended on his own state. When Galactus was strong, nobody could stop him. When he was weak, Galactus lost the face of the 5 gods. Odin was confident that he could repel Galactus in an extremely weak state. What Odin was really thinking about was who forced Galactus back. Supreme Master Gui? Probably. For the great mage who had guarded Midgard for thousands of years, even Odin would stand in awe. Wei Shan, the god of the Trinity, was not excluded. As the source of the white magic possessed by Gui, Emperor Wei Shan was still very strong. And he was very mysterious. Odin only knew that they live in seclusion on the Earth, and rarely took action. Even Odin didn't know the true strength of Emperor Wei Shan, only that they did exist. As for Hela, Odin thought it was impossible. With Hela's character, Odin understood that it was impossible for her to fight against Galactus for Earth. So after thinking about it, Odin found that the most likely to take a shot to repel Galactus should be the Supreme Mage, who did not run away. So far, the impact of Galactus ended here, and Odin didn't struggle with this matter for too long. Compared to Galactus, it was Hela who really deserved Odin's attention. As Odin's eldest daughter, Hela's strength and potential were beyond doubt. As long as she was standing on the land of Asgard, her strength could increase infinitely. With this alone, Hela's potential surpassed Odin. Therefore, Odin always treated his eldest daughter as a confidant. The most important thing was that Odin knew that his time was running out. Hela must be dealt with as soon as possible to lay a solid foundation for the next king of God to ascend the throne. When he was young, he was too active in the battle and suffered a dark wound. Now that his life was about to come to an end, it was time to consider finding himself an heir. Originally, Hela was the best candidate for the heir, but unfortunately, she was crooked. Except for Hela, there was only Thor. Loki was impossible. Not to mention Loki's bloodline, Loki's potential alone locked out the possibility of Loki becoming the king of gods. God-King must be the strongest in Asgard, this could not be changed. With Loki's strength, it was more appropriate for him to assist the God-King, even if he didn't become the God-King. Thor, thinking of him, Odin's head hurt. Thor's recent actions on the earth were all in Odin's eyes. This Tuha son, like his daughter Hela, liked mortals. This misfortune at home. Every time he thought about it, Odin felt sad. He was a majestic god-king of the 9 realms. He had fought in the universe for so many years and gained a great reputation. As a result, in his later years, even a qualified heir could not be found. Hela had a personality problem and was too bloodthirsty. Thor was the second one, and he hadn't grown up. He asked Thor to go to the earth, but now Thor was reluctant to come back. If it weren't for his old body, Odin even had the urge to work harder and raise a trumpet with Frigga. Hela's matter can't be delayed anymore. It must be resolved. As for Thor, I hope he can grow up and become a true king. Odin sighed and thought, looking back on his life. For the first time, he regretted certain things he had done when he was young. Maybe if he cared about herself a little bit more, Hela wouldn't be what she was now. Episode 47, Meeting between father and daughter, drawing swords against each other. Hela recently discovered a problem. That problem was that Yi-Bai's eyes were getting more and more weird recently. If she had to describe them, they were probably saying, "So you are Hela." Sometimes at night, Yi-Bai would be inexplicably excited. And he would often toss her all night and she couldn't sleep at all. By the way, Yi-Bai's body was getting stronger and stronger now. Hela gradually felt that she was being overwhelmed. All signs made Hela understand one thing. Maybe Yi-Bai knew her identity. Of course, this was only Hela's guess. There was no direct evidence. But it also gave Hela a sense of urgency. She realized that maybe the showdown might be just recently. In fact, Hela's guess was correct. Yi-Bai did know her true identity. But there was no other idea. Whether she was an ordinary girl, Hela, or Asgard's princess, Hela. She was his wife. Even after knowing Hela's identity, Yi-Bai was even more interested in some aspects. Whenever he thought that Hela, who was given and asked by herself, was a big devil queen, Yi-Bai's heart would always feel a sense of satisfaction. To put it bluntly, it was the vanity of a man, thinking that his wife was awesome. Just like a man dreaming of a big star. In fact, there were many girls whose looks were similar to those of big stars. But the aura of that big star was too dazzling. Hela was the same. The halo of that big devil made Yi-Bai feel very fulfilled. What about such a fierce big devil? Wasn't she still his wife? At this time, it had been more than a month since Yi-Bai repelled Galactus. During this time, Yi-Bai and Hela's life was very peaceful, and no one came to bother them. The only thing that made Yi-Bai uncomfortable was that the rewards given by the system during this period of time were very hard to describe. It might be that when he drew the ancient Doomsday body template last time, he had overdrawn too much luck. Successfully sign in, reward Crab Boss secret recipe for a burger. Successfully sign in, reward 3 copies of sweet stuffed chicken. Successfully sign in, reward a copy of a child's drawing practice. Successfully sign in, reward $1 million. Successfully sign in, reward a copy of out-of-print Mao Wang. There were many similar wonderful rewards, which were hard to describe in a word. The only thing that was useful was probably a combat uniform that will never be damaged. Of course, the function of this battle suit was only that it would not be damaged. There was no blessing in combat power at all. The system check-in since that time had made Yi-Bai even start to wonder if he had changed the system. Or did it mean that being too handsome had affected his European spirit? It was said that the luck of good-looking people was not good. Yi-Bai thought this might be true. Except that the system rewards were not smooth, Yi-Bai was still very satisfied in other aspects of his life. The world was finally clean. No one would bother him anymore. Shield Bureau also learned well, and didn't bother Yi-Bai and his wife again. This was also normal. They knew they couldn't provoke them, but they had to try, anyway. In this case, S.H.I.E.L.D. would be really stupid. Nick Fury, no matter how arrogant he was. After being threatened with death by Hela, he couldn't get mad. He had no doubt if he dared to say a little bit ill of Hela, Hela would dare to stab him to death. The Brotherhood of Mutants was scared of being completely killed by Yi-Bai. Although there were some mutants now clamoring for revenge for the great leader Magneto. Most of them didn't even know who killed Magneto. As for those superheroes who were beginning to show their prominence, Yi-Bai also paid attention to them. But as long as the superheroes didn't trouble Yi-Bai, Yi-Bai won't take a second look. If I had to say, Yi-Bai felt like a traveler in this world. He watched everything happening in this world coldly, and rarely interfered. Only when he was with Hela did Yi-Bai feel that he also had a home in this world. Surrounded by the familiar land of Asgard, Hela felt that it was as beautiful as in her memory. Hela walked a little dazed, not understanding how she suddenly came here. Where was Yi-Bai? Before Hela could understand this problem, a figure appeared in front of Hela. Wearing battle armor, holding a war spear, the God-King Odin. The god Odin who appeared in front of Hela was almost exactly the same as Hela's memory. He was still so cold, still so arrogant. Odin. The so-called meeting of enemies was dripping with animosity. If you asked Hela who she hated the most, it would definitely be Odin. After seeing the figure standing in front of him clearly, Hela directly drew the sword of the night sky and rushed towards Odin. Now Hela had only one idea in her mind, and that was to kill the man in front of her. Even if this man was her biological father. Seeing Hela rushing towards him, some disappointment flashed in Odin's eyes. After such a long time, Hela did not change her temperament. She was still the same as before. Cold, cruel, and bloodthirsty. Odin, who had some other ideas, was completely disappointed after seeing Hela like this. It seems that these days when you were sealed, you still haven't learned to repent. Odin shook his head and sighed. As if Hela's performance had disappointed him. It's just that Hela didn't have any plans to talk to Odin. The sword of the night sky in her hand passed through Odin's body mercilessly. However, Odin's body seemed to have no sense of reality. After being pierced by the sword of the night sky, it became virtual and solidified quickly. This was not Odin himself, it was just a phantom. Hela also calmed down, but in her beautiful eyes, the monstrous killing intent flickered. Odin, who saw this scene, also had a headache, knowing that there was almost no possibility of reconciliation with Hela. While having a headache, there were more disappointments. A qualified God King must learn to control his emotions and killing intent. If you learned this, you would have been my perfect successor. Unfortunately, you can't learn it. Odin shook his head and sighed. If Hela wasn't so cruel and bloodthirsty, he would have retired long ago. After hearing Odin's words, Hela sneered, not believing him at all. Besides, how had she become what she was now? Hela, the goddess of death, who cultivated her. Did this fellow Odin really forget? Well, it seems that we will not be able to talk anymore today. So let's wait for you to calm down. After speaking, Odin disappeared, and the whole Asgard was also shattered. In an instant, Hela opened her eyes, only to find that she had been lying on the bed, not going anywhere. Thinking back to the conversation with Odin just now, Hela also had some doubts in her eyes. Is it a dream? Or an illusion? Hela knew that Odin was still the god of magic, with strong, magical powers. Creating an illusion was not difficult for Odin at all. Episode 48, Odin's Murderous Intent. In Asgard, Odin closed his eyes tiredly. Just now, he had used Gungnir's supernatural power to construct a real illusion. And in that fantasy world, Odin and Hela met. Unsurprisingly, Hela was still eager for him to die. The first reaction after seeing him was to kill him. Thinking of this, Odin felt a little pain in his heart. His daughter regarded him as an enemy and tried to kill him as soon as they met. It would not be a good thing if this happened to anyone. And the same was true for Odin. But who could he blame? Wasn't this Hela also cultivated by Odin himself? In fact, this time Odin wanted to meet Hela, the main purpose was to examine the current character of Hela. He wanted to see if Hela had changed. If Hela could see beyond the hatred of the past, then Odin might consider giving Hela the position of the king of gods. After all, Hela also had her own lover. She had learned to love and be loved. Theoretically, the personality of a person would change a little bit more or less. It's just a pity that she hit Odin in the face severely. Hela did not change in the slightest, nor did she let go of her hatred towards him. The first reaction to the meeting was to ask him to die. It was really a filial piety. Odin had just sprouted an idea in his heart, and now the idea of giving Hela the throne of the king was completely dissipated. The current Hela who still couldn't let go of the hatred she had in the past. She was really not suitable to be a god-king. And the reason why Odin would suddenly look at Hela's character. In fact, he didn't have a choice. If Thor was good enough, how could Odin think of Hela? It's really Thor, it's hard to say a word. All of Thor's recent actions on the earth were seen by Odin. In Odin's view, Thor was even more unsuitable to be the king of gods. Thor was suitable to be a hero, or the bravest fighter on the battlefield. As for becoming the king of gods, he would definitely lead Asgard into the ditch. See what good things Thor had done on earth. Not only did he become friends with a mortal, but he also fell in love with a mortal. He also recently joined a mortal organization called the Avengers. After being fooled twice by a black braised egg, he left the identity of Thor to work for others. How could such a person be the king of gods? As for the Avengers, in fact, Nick Fury had already been preparing. During the previous Black Hole crisis, he took advantage of the opportunity to gather all the superheroes together. In this way, Nick Fury completed the formation of the Avengers. Today's Avengers had many members, which were much stronger than the original Avengers in history. Although Captain America was still sleeping in the glacier. They had added 4 more superheroes, the Fantastic Four. Thor, the god of thunder, also joined this organization under the flicker of the black braised egg. However, the Avengers, who had not suffered any setbacks, were still playing their own way. Thor fooled around with Tony Stark all day. These two superheroes would have a big fight in the original plot, but at this time they were inexplicably similar. It was Thor's performance on the earth that made Odin waver in his decision-making. He began to worry about what Asgard, led by Thor, would look like after he died. It was precisely because of this incident that Odin had the idea of reconsidering Hela. It's just that Hela also successfully interrupted his thoughts and didn't hide her hatred for him. A good relationship son was not suitable to be an heir, and a daughter who was suitable to be an heir had a particularly bad relationship. This was the situation Odin was facing right now. He was unable to choose a satisfactory successor, only a relatively not-so-bad successor. Sure enough, even if it was the Marvel world, it was still a worse world in the final analysis. In addition to meeting with Hela and getting to know her, Odin did not forget about Yi-Bai. This damn mortal who had slept with his daughter. Odin naturally couldn't easily let him go. For tarnishing the noble lineage of the Odin's family, Yi-Bai had to pay for it. Therefore, after Odin ended his illusion with Hela, he rebuilt another illusion, which was aimed at Yi-Bai. In the illusion, the meeting this time was on a cliff by the sea. At this time, Yi-Bai was full of confusion. He clearly remembered that he was resting. Was it Gu-Yi? Just when Yi-Bai was puzzled, Odin appeared. Holding the eternal spear Gungnir, standing on the top of the cloud, looking down at Yi-Bai from high above. Bold mortal. Tarnishing the blood of Odin's family deserves death. I pronounced the sentence in Odin's name, you are damned. If Odin faced Hela with guilt and regret. When facing Yi-Bai, only the killing intent was left with gritted teeth. Thinking of his daughter, who was actually put to sleep by a mortal. Odin almost vomited blood in anger. What did Yi-Bai react to at this time? He only realized that the co-author was the old man looking for himself to settle the account. As for Odin's killing intent, Yi-Bai didn't care at all. He had even faced Galactus before. Could Odin be better than him? It was only the appearance of Odin, which also gave Yi-Bai a wake-up call. That was, although he was very strong now, he still had obvious weaknesses. The weakest part was that the magic resistance was too low. The template of General Zod was not to say, Kryptonians didn't have magic resistance at all. Didn't you see in the DC next door, how much did Superman suffer due to magic? As long as the opponent knew a little magic, it was a hard fight for Superman. As for Doomsday, although it had the characteristics of immortality, his magic resistance was hard to describe. The core structure of Doomsday was made using Kryptonian genes. Therefore, the magic resistance of Doomsday was also very low. He was immortal and difficult to kill. But magic could still deflate Doomsday, and he could even be sealed by magic. And Yi-Bai was the same. The most difficult enemy Yi-Bai had to deal with at the moment was the enemy who had the same powerful magical ability as the Supreme Mage. The appearance of Odin once again proved this point. Wasn't it because of Yi-Bai's low magic resistance that he could easily pull Yi-Bai into the illusion? While Yibai thought about his current strengths and weaknesses, Odin was already completely furious. Good fellow, you not only slept with my daughter and tarnished the blood of my Odin's family, but you also dared to ignore me. Naughty animal, die. Under Odin's anger, infinite thunder gathered behind Odin. It eventually formed a huge spear composed of thunder. Die. Odin gave a cold snort and directly controlled the thunder and threw the lightning spear towards Yibai. Under this blow, let alone a mortal, even a strong man like Thor would die directly. Although Odin hadn't taken a shot for a long time, it didn't mean that he had become weak. Although Odin could not completely kill Yibai in this illusion, it was okay to erase Yibai's soul. Yibai, without a soul at that time, naturally could only become a breathing dead person. Episode 49, Trampling Odin's Dignity. Since learning that Hela was put to sleep by a mortal, Odin's inner anger had not subsided. He wanted to kill that damn mortal all the time. And now he finally found the opportunity. As for whether Yibai was innocent, Odin didn't care. In his life, he had crossed the universe, conquered the 9 realms, and killed countless innocents. Now there was only one more innocent person. He naturally didn't care at all. Looking at the divine spear that was about to strike him like a world-destroying thunder, and Odina's very obvious killing intent, Yibai's eyes also turned cold. After finding out the real identity of Hela, Yibai even thought about whether to reconcile the relationship between Odin and Hela. But now it seemed that this was unnecessary. Since he had a murderous intent for me, then he should die. Yibai wouldn't be able to tolerate what this old guy did just because Odin was Hela's father. And maybe Hela wanted to kill Odin more than Yibai. Odin, above the clouds, watching the indifferent Yibai, frowned. Something was wrong with this situation. Logically speaking, under this mighty power, shouldn't Yibai be terrified? What's the matter with being so calm? Odin vaguely felt something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. But it didn't matter anymore. This mortal was about to die, anyway. Just when the divine spear that thunder turned into was about to hit Yibai, Yibai made a fist and then smashed it out at the attacking thunder spear. Unimaginable power burst out from Yibai's body in an instant, and the terrifying power even made this fantasy world show signs of collapse. The magical spear, formed by thunder and lightning, directly confronted Yibai's fist. Then, the divine spear collapsed directly, and countless thunders were also completely erased. In the face of absolute power, all magic appeared weak. One punch could break all kinds of magic. Odin obviously didn't expect this ending, and at this time he still stared blankly at the smashed divine spear. After so many years of fighting, Odin was not without encountering a strong man. When facing the ancient celestial gods group, Odin was almost beaten to death. There were so many strong people, but none was more special than Yibai. Yibai didn't have those fancy methods, only the ultimate power. Under that punch, Odin's supernatural power was like a joke. Let you be unparalleled. I will break it with my own punch. This simple and rude attack method had a great contrast with the effect it caused. So that Odin had a sense of unreality. What shocked Odin even more was the strength that Yibai showed. Wasn't this guy immortal? Shouldn't he let himself rub on the ground like ants? What the hell was this? Why did you suddenly become so strong? Was this still a mortal? Odin was completely confused at this moment. But Odin was stunned, Yibai wasn't. After smashing the divine spear formed by thunder, Yibai did not stop his movements. Instead, he flew directly from the ground and rushed towards Odin. Yibai wasn't the one who wouldn't fight back after being beaten. Since Odin wanted to attack him, Yibai must teach him a profound lesson. Although Odin couldn't be hurt in the fantasy world, it was enough to humiliate him. By the time Odin recovered, it was too late. Because Yibai had already appeared in front of him. His one-eyed eyes could only watch as Yibai's palm was getting bigger and bigger. Snapped. Yibai slapped Odin fiercely, and it felt very enjoyable. As for Odin, he trembled with anger and looked at Yibai in disbelief. Odin, who had long been on the throne of the King of Gods, was humiliated even with his authority for the first time in so many years. Although this was only in the illusion. What Yibai hit was not his body, but an illusion. But, what was more important was that Yibai dared to do something to him and slapped him. This was more than the previous crime. This was trampling the dignity of this God-King under his feet. This was throwing his majesty on the ground, stomping wildly and then spitting on it. This was a humiliation for Asgard. After realizing this, Odin trembled with anger. From his birth until now, no one had dared to treat him this way. Odin wanted to say a few ruthless words to protect his authority. Unfortunately, the fantasy world he created was completely broken. In the end, he could only look at Yi Bai's foolish eyes, unable to say anything. The first meeting between Yi Bai and Odin was finally over. In the manner, Yi Bai opened his eyes and saw an anxious Hela at first glance. As early as when Yi Bai was drawn into the illusion, Hela noticed that something was wrong. Hela, who just woke up from the illusion, guessed right away that Odin had attacked Yi Bai. This made Hela very anxious. She couldn't even imagine what she would do if something happened to Yi Bai. She even planned to kill everyone in Asgard to avenge Yi Bai. Fortunately, Yi Bai woke up in time and was not harmed by Odin. But even so, seeing Yi Bai, who woke up, Hela hugged him for the first time. Great, you woke up. Hela even had the urge to cry. She almost thought that she would lose Yi Bai forever. This kind of loss and regained joy made Hela completely unable to stretch her cold personality. Yi Bai also patted Hela on the back to soothe her. Don't be afraid. He can't do anything to me. To be honest, Yi Bai's heart was a little moved. There were people who could worry about him wholeheartedly, laugh and cry for him. In this case, few people would not be moved. Yi Bai was a very rational person, and his judgment was basically not influenced by emotions. But at this moment, he still felt warm in his heart. I love you. All of his feelings finally turned into these 3 words. This was also the first time Hela had said this since she met Yi Bai. Then, Hela, who was always in a passive state, embraced Yi Bai and offered everything she had. Yi Bai wanted to say me too. But Hela, who was enthusiastic and proactive, blocked all of Yi Bai's words. Feelings were often like this, and in many cases they were uncontrollable. She had never experienced them, and no one had ever taught her what to do. When she was young, the only thing she learned was how to kill efficiently. This also caused Hela to be at a loss when facing Yi Bai's initiative. But today, Hela finally got through without a teacher and actively expressed her feelings for Yi Bai. Only when somebody had almost lost someone would they understand the value of the person in front of them. To be honest, Yi Bai was a little uncomfortable with Hela's initiative. You need to know that he was one who used to bring the rhythm. When did Hela become able to do it? However, this feeling was also good. Hela's initiative opened the door to a new world for Yi Bai. There was a lot of knowledge that he didn't have the opportunity to use before. It seemed that he could find opportunities to practice it in the future. Episode 50, Kill the Mortal. It could be said that this time the crisis made Yi Bai and Hela's relationship more stable. For Odin, it just made him even more angry. For himself, Odin had murderous intent on Yi Bai. Before, he was very upset with this guy who tarnished Odin's noble blood. But now, Yi Bai threw a fist at him. When Yi Bai trampled his pride under his feet, Odin's killing intent on Yi Bai was already full of intensity. Despicable mortal, you will pay for what you did. Yi Bai successfully defeated Odin, who had been self-cultivating for hundreds of years, at this moment. He showed his true face. His vicious look was not the look of a kind old man that people thought of. There was a fact that must be known. No matter how kind and affectionate Odin was in Thor, he was a war madman when he was young. He was the executioner who had led countless genocides. The real butcher on the battlefield. Would such a person have a good temper? Who could believe it? Only after getting older, Odin converged on his brutality and showed hypocrisy. He hoped to lead by example and cultivate Thor and Loki. But when he was thoroughly irritated by Yi Bai, that damn demeanor was already thrown by Odin into the corner without knowing it. He really wanted to start a war now, leading Asgard's army to the earth and killing Yi Bai. He immediately did it. He summoned Heimdall over immediately. In front of Heimdall, Odin announced that Asgard's army would be assembled. The 9 realms had forgotten the power of Asgard. He felt that it was necessary to remind the 9 realms of the fear of being dominated by Asgard. Only this time, even Heimdall disagreed with Odin's order. Your Majesty, you must know that Asgard is no longer suitable for starting a war. Heimdall said to Odin. Heimdall was right. Asgard was not suitable for war anymore. It was not suitable, not incapable. Odin was old, and Thor hadn't grown up yet. Starting a war at this time would only drag Asgard into the quagmire. To make matters worse, doing so would make Thor a target. Wait until Odin is completely dead. Did you think Thor would not be retaliated against by countless people? Once the seeds of hatred were planted, they would surely bear the fruits of hatred one day. As an old man who had followed Odin for many years, Heimdall clearly understood this. To this day, in the universe, many of Asgard's former enemies were staring at them. Of course, if only this was the case, Heimdall would not dare to say a word in front of Odin. It was Frigga who really gave Heimdall the guts to refute Odin. He is right, Odin. You should really calm down now. Frigga also stood up at this time and stopped Odin's impulsive behavior. Odin had already fallen out with Hela once. And if he did it again, Hela would never forgive Asgard for the rest of her life. An heir who should have been an excellent king would become the enemy of Asgard. Frigga didn't want to see this scene, because Frigga felt that Hela still had a chance to return to Asgard. Are you going to stop me too, Frigga? Odin's face now looked like an angry lion. He had a fierce expression, as if ready to tear the enemy to pieces at any time. Facing Odin in this state, even Heimdall felt tremendous pressure. Only Frigga was not afraid at all. Yes, haven't you been worrying about not having a suitable heir? I think Hela is good, she has changed. Frigga persuaded Odin. She was a very gentle woman, and she was also the first witch with great vision. She knew better than Odin that Thor was not the best candidate to be the heir to the king of gods. Even if Thor was her own blood and Hela was not. She hasn't changed. Her first reaction when she saw me was to kill me. Do you think I should cultivate an heir who is ready to kill me? Although Odin was still angry, he was still somewhat sensible. Only for Frigga's proposal, Odin still did not comment. Had Hela changed? A lie. Sent it that the moment she saw me, she wanted to kill me. This was also called a change? She learned to protect, she no longer blindly pursues killing. You should look at your child more rationally, instead of staying in the past with your opinion of her. Frigga once again persuaded, because she really didn't want to see Odin and Hela fighting against each other anymore. And she was the queen of Asgard. Hence, she should choose a qualified heir for Asgard. Otherwise, Asgard would not end well in the future. Asgard was really miserable. After listening to Frigga's words, Odin's inner anger also calmed down. And he began to think carefully about Frigga's words. If, as Frigga said, Hela really changed, then Hela was indeed suitable to be his heir. Hela's strength was strong. She was cruel and extremely talented in warfare, which could keep Asgard from being targeted. At the same time, Hela was his eldest daughter, and the noble blood of the Odin's family was flowing in her body. From all aspects, Hela was the best candidate to become the heir to the king. Except that Hela was too obsessed with killing and didn't know how to curb her edge. It was precisely for this reason that Odin finally did not regard Hela as his heir. Because a god-king who only knew about killing was definitely a disaster for the 9 realms. But now, if Hela really learned how to protect, as Frigga said. As far as the heir of the god-king was concerned, Hela really had no shortcomings. However, when he thought that Hela had found a mortal as her husband, Odin could not be more angry. Hela was the eldest princess of the Odin's family, and the most noble blood of the 9 realms was flowing in her body. How could such a Hela accept a mortal? Thor was a man, after all. So he could barely accept a mortal as Thor's girlfriend. After all, men always had to take advantage of this kind of thing. But Hela was a daughter, and her daughter had been arched by others. It was strange that Odin was not angry. These series of things nowadays, wasn't it because Hela found a mortal as her husband? If there was no such thing, the situation would not be what it was now. If Hela wants to become the king of gods, she must kill the mortal and wash away the shame of the Odin's family. This is the only condition. If Hela can't do it, she will never be the king of gods. Finally, Odin said so.